I am Michael Carter, a 48-year-old father who spent my life working hard to give my daughter the future she deserved. I thought I knew my family better than anyone, but one unexpected visit to my daughter's college revealed a secret that changed everything I believed about trust, love, and betrayal. I still remember the feeling of walking across my daughter's college campus that afternoon. The sun was warm, students were laughing near the pathways, and I carried a small gift bag in my hand, because I wanted her to know that even though life had changed, her father was still there. I had spent months missing her, and I imagined the look on her face when she saw me standing outside her classroom. I wasn't there because of an emergency. I wasn't there because something was wrong. I was there because I wanted to create a memory. I wanted to be the father who showed up, the one who celebrated her achievements and reminded her that no distance could erase everything we had built together. For years, my daughter had been my entire world. I still remembered holding her hand when she took her first steps, helping her with homework at the kitchen table, and sitting beside her during every important moment. I worked long hours, sometimes coming home exhausted, but I never wanted her to feel like she had to face life alone. I missed dinners, skipped vacations, and made countless sacrifices so she could have opportunities one never had. Every late night at work felt worth it when I saw her smile. Watching her grow into a confident young woman was the greatest reward I could have asked for. When college came around, I knew things would change. I knew she needed independence, new experiences, and a life beyond the walls of our home. I was proud of her, even though the empty bedroom and quiet house were harder to accept than I expected. Our family had already gone through difficult changes before she left. The person I trusted most during that period was someone who always seemed to stand beside me, offering support when everything felt uncertain. They listened to my worries, helped keep things calm, and made me believe we were all trying to protect the same family. At the time, I never questioned their intentions. They appeared caring and dependable. Looking back, there were moments that felt strange, but I pushed those thoughts away because I wanted to believe the people closest to me would never hide anything important. Even my conversations with my daughter slowly started changing. The long phone calls became shorter. Messages that once came naturally became simple replies. Sometimes I would ask about her life, and she would quickly change the subject or say she was busy with classes. I noticed those little changes, but I explained them away. College was stressful. She was growing up. She was learning how to manage her own world. I told myself that every parent eventually has to accept their child creating space. Still, there were moments that stayed in my mind. Times when she seemed uncomfortable answering certain questions. Times when plans suddenly changed without much explanation. I felt a small doubt growing, but I didn't want suspicion to replace trust. That was why my visit to campus meant so much to me. I believed it would remind both of us that our bond was still strong. I walked toward her classroom feeling excited, almost like I was returning to an important chapter of our lives. Then everything changed in a matter of seconds. I approached one of her professors and mentioned that I was waiting to surprise my daughter after class. The professor looked confused. There was a pause, a small hesitation, and then the words came out casually. "I'm sorry, but you're not her father. Her father comes here every week." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. The sounds around me seemed to fade, and the busy campus suddenly felt strangely quiet. I stood there holding the gift bag, trying to understand how a simple surprise visit had turned into a question I couldn't ignore. The professor wasn't being cruel. They genuinely believed what they were saying. That was what made it even harder. Someone else had been showing up in my daughter's life, while I believed I still understood my place in it. I left that conversation without making a scene. I didn't want anger to control me before I knew the truth. Instead, I walked away slowly, replaying every conversation, every missed call, and every moment that suddenly felt different. The visit that was supposed to celebrate my daughter became something else entirely. I realized I needed answers, and I needed to find them calmly, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was connected to something I had ignored for far too long. If you stay with me until the end, you'll understand why the person behind this secret was someone I trusted more than anyone. And you'll see how a father who arrived with love and pride discovered truth he never expected to find. After leaving the campus that day, I didn't drive home immediately. I sat in my car with both hands resting on the steering wheel, staring through the windshield at people walking by like it was just another normal afternoon. But for me, nothing felt normal anymore. I kept hearing those words in my head. Her father comes here every week. I wanted to believe there was a simple explanation. Maybe the professor was mistaken. Maybe there was some misunderstanding that would disappear once I asked the right question. But something inside me already knew I couldn't ignore it. I decided not to confront my daughter right away. That was the hardest decision I had ever made. Every part of me wanted to call her and ask who this person was, why she never told me, and how someone else could have a place in her life that I didn't even know existed. But I knew anger would only create more distance. If there was something being hidden from me, I needed to understand why before I said anything I could regret. So I started quietly looking for answers. I went back through old messages between my daughter and me. I read conversations from months earlier, searching for small details I might have missed. The words looked different now. A simple "I'm busy" or "I'll call you later" suddenly felt heavier. I noticed patterns I had ignored before. There were times she avoided talking about certain family events. Times she changed the subject when I asked who she was spending time with. Moments where her voice sounded different, like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. The more I looked, the more questions appeared. Then I started thinking about the person closest to me during those difficult years. The person who always seemed to understand my struggles. The person who told me they wanted the best for my daughter and our family. For a long time, I believed that person was my strongest support. They were there during important conversations. They offered advice when I was worried. They often spoke as if they knew exactly what my daughter needed. At the time, I saw it as kindness. Now, I wondered if it was something else. I began remembering moments that had seemed insignificant before. Small comments, little suggestions, times when it would say things like, "Maybe she needs space from you," or "Don't pressure her too much." I had accepted those words because I trusted them. I never considered that those same words might have been creating a wall between my daughter and me. The painful part wasn't just discovering that someone had kept a secret. The painful part was realizing how long I might have been living inside a story someone else created. I started noticing inconsistencies everywhere. There were memories my daughter described differently than I remembered them. There were conversations where she repeated ideas that sounded strangely familiar, almost like someone else had explained my actions to her in a different way. I began wondering if she truly chose this distance herself, or if someone had slowly influenced the way she saw me. That thought hurt more than I expected. A father can handle many disappointments, but feeling like you lost pieces of your child's life without knowing why is a different kind of pain. I thought about the moments I missed, the celebrations I wasn't invited to, and the times I wondered why my daughter seemed less open with me. Maybe those moments weren't random. Maybe they were connected. Still, I refused to let my emotions take control. I knew that if I confronted the wrong person too soon, I could make everything worse. The person behind the situation might deny everything, and my daughter might feel forced to choose sides. That was the last thing I wanted. My goal was never to punish anyone. It was never about proving that I was right. The only thing that mattered was understanding what happened and protecting the relationship I still had with my daughter. So I became patient. I paid attention. I asked careful questions when conversations naturally came up. I listened more than I spoke. Every small piece of information helped me understand the bigger picture. Eventually, I discovered more clues about the weekly visitor. The connection wasn't something casual. This person had been involved in my daughter's life in ways I never realized. And the more I learned, the harder it became to accept. The person I trusted most had not just hidden information from me. They had helped shape a reality where I was slowly pushed further away from my own daughter. That realization changed everything. I stopped hoping that I would find proof that nothing was wrong. I stopped searching for a reason to dismiss my doubts. Instead, I started preparing myself for the truth, no matter how painful it would be. Because before I could fix what was broken, I needed to understand exactly who broke it and why. And I knew the next conversation I had with my family would reveal the truth that had been hidden behind years of smiles. The more I learned, the more I realized I could no longer avoid the conversation. I had spent enough time collecting pieces of the truth, and I knew the only way forward was to sit down with my daughter and the person who had been at the center of everything. I didn't want a dramatic argument. I didn't want shouting or blame. I wanted honesty. After everything that had happened, the one thing my family needed was a conversation where nobody could hide behind excuses. So I arranged a meeting. When we sat across from each other, I could feel the tension in the room. My daughter looked nervous, and the person I had trusted for years avoided looking directly at me. I placed the information I had gathered in front of them and calmly explained what I had discovered. I didn't accuse. I didn't attack. I simply asked questions. At first, there was silence. Then my daughter finally spoke. She told me the weekly visitor was someone who had been helping her during college because she believed I was too overwhelmed with my own problems to be involved. She explained that she had not wanted to hurt me, but over time, she became afraid of bringing up the subject because she thought I would be angry. That was the moment my heart sank, because the truth wasn't what I expected. There wasn't one simple villain or one single moment that destroyed everything. It was a series of choices, misunderstandings, and things left unsaid. Then the person I trusted admitted their role. They had convinced my daughter that keeping certain things from me was the easier option. They told her they were protecting the peace. They believed they were helping, but their actions created a much bigger distance between my daughter and me. The painful part was realizing that someone could have good intentions and still cause deep damage. For years, I believed this person was helping hold our family together. Instead, they had slowly become the reason important conversations never reached me. I felt anger. I felt disappointment. I felt hurt thinking about all the moments I could have shared with my daughter if the truth had come sooner. But I also knew that losing control would only repeat the same mistakes that brought us there. My quiet revenge was not making someone suffer. It was refusing to let lies define my relationship with my daughter. I let the truth speak for itself. I showed the facts. I explained how their decisions affected me. I made it clear that trust could not exist without honesty. And for the first time in years, nobody could rewrite the story or make me question what I knew. The consequences came naturally. The person who betrayed my trust lost the influence they once had because everyone finally saw the situation clearly. There was no need for revenge beyond that. When the truth is revealed, people eventually have to face what they have done. My relationship with my daughter did not magically repair overnight. Some wounds need time. We had many conversations after that day, and some of them were difficult. I told her how much I missed being part of her life. She told me about the fears and assumptions she had carried. We both realized that silence had created more damage than any argument ever could. Slowly, we started rebuilding. We called more often. We shared more details about our lives. We stopped pretending everything was fine and started being honest about what we felt. I learned that being a father wasn't only about providing or protecting. It was also about listening, even when the truth was painful. My daughter learned that hiding difficult conversations doesn't protect the people we love. Sometimes it only creates a bigger distance. Looking back, that day at the college campus changed everything. I arrived expecting a happy surprise, but I left with questions that forced my family to finally face the truth. I learned that trust is fragile, but it can be rebuilt when people choose honesty over comfort. Secrets can break families apart, but communication and forgiveness can begin putting those pieces back together. If you have ever experienced a misunderstanding with someone you love, remember that the truth is always worth searching for. Share your thoughts, reflect on the relationships that matter most, and stay connected for more emotional stories about family, betrayal, and the moments that change our lives forever.